Discrimination has many faces, all of them ugly. For over 20 years, our next guest has been assisting people facing discrimination, and the law office of Lindy Korn works as a team on your behalf to achieve a satisfying result for every client. This morning, Lindy is here to specifically talk about pregnancy discrimination in the workplace and what you can do about it. Lindy, good morning. It's a pleasure to meet you finally.
Oh, it's nice to be here.
Well, now, I told the folks at the top of the show yesterday, oral arguments were heard before the Supreme Court, I guess, concerning pregnancy discrimination in the workplace.
Yes, there's a case called Peggy Young versus UPS that was orally argued yesterday before the Supreme Court. And I believe if you go online, you can actually read a transcript of the argument. And it's very complicated, but in essence, that case had to do with a woman, Peggy Young, who was a driver for UPS in Maryland. And she was pregnant, and at some point during her pregnancy, she was told by her doctor that she had a 20-pound lifting restriction. Otherwise, she could do her work, but she needed to have a light-duty assignment for a period of time during her pregnancy. Of course. And her regular job had her lifting over that amount, which she could do. So she needed a restriction, a light duty assignment, so that her restrictions could be honored. Certainly. And at that time, UPS had a policy, which it has since changed, but it had a policy where it accommodated certain conditions, and one was if you had an injury that was an on-the-job injury, you could have light duty. You could also have light duty if you fit specifically under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and then there was another category where you could be accommodated, but hers was not an on-the-job injury. And so the case really had to do with, do we really want to look at the Pregnancy Discrimination Act and say that it depends on the source of your injury as to whether you get light duty or not, and does that allow pregnant workers to keep their jobs when they're able to do it, but they need a light duty temporary accommodation? And what are we saying about, since all of us came from some woman somewhere, what are we saying about how we treat pregnant workers? Right.
What was it that UPS wanted to do to her or not do?
Well, they said there was no light duty. They didn't have to have a light duty assignment for her because she didn't
fit these other categories.
And other people who didn't fit the categories would also be treated similarly. I suppose they would argue we don't want to create a class where we have to give special treatment. However, let me just update you. The Americans with Disabilities Act was amended, and it broadened the definition of disabling conditions, and I believe that would protect Peggy Young today. Also, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, they're the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, has come out with a new guideline for employers, and many states have their own laws that would protect a Peggy Young. And UPS changed their policy before oral argument.
Well, did they change it because they knew this was going before the Supreme Court?
No, I think they may have changed it because other laws, as I'm mentioning to you, indicated they needed to do so. I can't speak for UPS, but they did change the policy, but the case was still argued based on the facts.
I don't work for UPS, never had anything to do with them, and I'm certainly not pregnant, but it just seems on the surface this would have been a no-brainer. I can't believe they would have fucked this woman over this.
Well, actually, they had a policy that they would argue they were uniformly applying. But the point is really not so much from what I care about this particular case, but how do we allow pregnant women who need their job many times the most ever because of the costs of being pregnant? This woman lost her health insurance.
Oh my.
So the point is, how do we want to treat pregnant workers, and does the Pregnancy Discrimination Act cover it? Do the new EEOC guidelines cover it? And does the Americans with Disabilities Act cover it? And my answer to you today would be, I think so. But I will also tell you that many employers do discriminate against pregnant workers.
Well, now we've got a lot of viewers out there, and chances are a number of them are pregnant, and further chances are they are working women. Now, they don't all work for UPS, but what should they look for in their respective jobs that might be a form of pregnancy discrimination where they might want to seek counsel from someone like you?
Well, I would tell you that they'll know when it happens, if it happens. Unfortunately, some of it is not subtle, believe it or not. You know, there have been employers who have said, you know, having a pregnant woman be the first person our customers see isn't the look we're looking for. Somebody took too many breaks because they were pregnant, or, you know, she looked too preggy. I mean, you know, these are things that we hear, and there are many more. But actually, the issue that I think a lot of pregnant women may face is if they need a light-duty, temporary assignment accommodation because of a lifting. Otherwise, they can do their job, but for a short period of time, they need an accommodation. And it is my belief that the laws that we have in place now would allow that.
Well, without naming names or places or anything, are you by any chance representing anyone currently or recently that has had a pregnancy discrimination charge against their employer?
Yes.
Here in Western New York. So it is happening not only just with UPS, it's happening everywhere.
I would tell you that pregnancy discrimination cases, because of some of the changes in the laws, is on the rise. I believe it has, even in my office, it has doubled since last year, the cases that I'm seeing.
Oh my goodness. What about the case of a woman who is applying for a job and may be showing, and she's turned down and given some lame excuse as to why she wasn't hired? Could that possibly be a form of pregnancy discrimination? How would she prove that?
Well, everything goes back to the facts, and certainly I wouldn't take a case if I didn't think that there was something that I had a chance of winning for the client. But I will tell you, in the hiring process, I will give you an example of what has happened.
Oh, please, thank you.
And that would be where someone goes and applies for a job and is indeed offered the job. Then, after the job was offered, and sometimes it happens there are recruiters involved in many cases. Yeah. So afterwards, maybe through a discussion with a recruiter or not, but before the person starts, but after they've accepted the job, offer.
And been accepted. And
an offer, an acceptance. Then the person says, well, you know, because maybe in 4 months they know they're going to need, or 5 months, they're going to need some time off. So they say to the employer, by the way, I am pregnant, and in 5 months, it's my due date, or whatever. I'm going to need some time off. And then the offer is rescinded for some other reason.
Okay.
Now that presents a lot of issues.
Yes, and it seems to me the timing is a little critical right there.
Yeah, the temporal proximity.
Especially if they had been offered the job and then it's pulled.
Yeah, offered and accepted, and then some other, you know, reason given. And you know, many women go through pregnancy and they do just fine. They don't have any complications.
Yeah, and we hope that's the case with all of them. But so what is a woman to do? What is her recourse then? If she feels this has happened, should she immediately seek legal counsel or simply go look for another job?
Well, the problem is most people need a job. Yeah. They need health insurance. They need some sense of security. And it goes back to dignity, that we all need a job. So just person happens to be pregnant. It can come at a very bad time. A bad time for that person to seek a job. So if the person feels that they have a case and they have proof and the damages are mounting, they'll know what to do. But if they don't know for sure, there are many things they can do. They can go to the EEOC, they can call the New York State Division of Human Rights, or they can seek private counsel for a consultation to get more information.
I want to back up just briefly because we're almost out of time. Did Peggy Young, was she terminated? Did she lose her job from UPS?
She was not terminated, but she was not given, she was put on unpaid leave at that time.
Okay. All right. Well, when do you think the Supreme Court will make this decision?
In June.
In June. Well, we'll definitely have to have you back and get a ruling on this. Lindy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
This has been very eye-opening and inspirational to many pregnant women out there right now who may be suffering some form of discrimination where they work. Thank you so much. We'll put up the information you need to contact the law office of Lindy Korn right there on screen. 9th floor of the Electric Tower, 535 Washington Street, downtown. Phone number 856-KORN or 856-5676. Buffalo-discrimination-attorney.com is where you go online.